Hey everyone, James with TFBTV, and today on TFBTV I'm reviewing a Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0, kind of. Obviously you guys can see that there's some differences between this gun and a standard Smith & Wesson M&P. First of all, you may have noticed it has raised or suppressor height sights. This allows you to fire the gun and still be able to use your sights if you have a suppressor attached to the gun. A lot of times, depending on the internal diameter of the suppressor, it can occlude those sights, but if you have the suppressor height sights, you're good to go right out of the box. So that's kind of cool. Obviously, it's got a threaded barrel, which allows us to attach a silencer. This barrel on this Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0 is a 1/2 x 28 thread pitch, which is the most common thread pitch for 9mm and 9mm suppressors. And you guys can't necessarily see this at home, but this gun's got a 13-pound recoil spring instead of a 15-pound recoil spring, which is gonna make it a little bit more reliable if you've got a big can hanging off the front of the barrel. Now, what's really cool about this is all factory. These are Smith & Wesson's factory sights, Smith & Wesson's factory barrel, and Smith & Wesson's factory recoil spring. It comes configured this way when they send it to the Hush Puppy project. Now, the Hush Puppy project is a really neat concept. Many of you have heard the name Hush Puppy before. You're thinking of the Mark 22 from Vietnam. That was a Smith & Wesson Model 39 that they dubbed the Hush Puppy. Allegedly, legend has it, that it was used to put down sentry dogs and guard dogs. And what was neat about the Smith & Wesson 39 Mark 22 Hush Puppy is the fact that you would have no action noise because it had this little lever in the back here, which is called an SLD, or a slide locking device. It prevents the action from being cycled whenever you fire a round. Now, why is that such a cool concept? Well, it forces all the gases out the front of the barrel through the suppressor instead of ejecting gases out of the ejection port, and instead of adding all of that action noise. I mean, if you hear that, that's pretty loud as is without even firing a round. So you don't have action noise or any gases escaping out of the ejection port when you have the slide locking device engaged. You're gonna fire a shot and nothing's going to happen. The slide's not gonna reciprocate. Now, if you need to fire a follow-up shot, if you failed the first time, you are going to have to disengage that SLD, the slide locking device, and manually rack a new round in. And of course, it works as a standard Smith & Wesson M&P. You don't need to put a silencer on it for it to work. You don't need to use the SLD. You can have the slide locking device disengaged and you can just fire it semi-automatic. It works fine. It's a Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0. One of my favorite guns. This is the full size, which is a 17+1 gun. It's also got the full skateboard texture grip, which I love. I think that's a huge upgrade over the 1.0. Much better trigger than the original 1.0s. This is a nice 5.5, 6.5 pound trigger. Feels great. I love these guns, so I'm really glad to see the Hush Puppy project using the M&P 2.0 as its host gun. And why did they do that? Not only is it super cool that Smith & Wesson's participating and sending these guns out with the threaded barrel, the recoil spring, the suppressor height sights from the factory. Not only is that neat, but it's an homage to the original Smith & Wesson 39 Hush Puppy. It'd be kind of messed up if you used, say, a Glock. Now, I would love to see a Glock Hush Puppy, and good news for you Glock people out there, there is a Glock Hush Puppy project gun on the way. So how much is the quietest handgun you could possibly buy gonna run you? I think MSRP on these was about $789. I guess you're probably looking at street price of around $700. There's not a ton of them out there, but you can get them from any dealer, any of your local gun stores that buys from Lipsy's. Lipsy's is a Louisiana distributorship. The Hush Puppy project is based here in beautiful Louisiana. So if your dealer can call up Lipsy's, they can get their hands on a Hush Puppy for you. I think at the $700, $800, whatever it is, I bet it's gonna be around $700 street price. If that's the case, you're looking at a really good deal for all the features that you get. You're getting a very capable handgun that comes suppressor ready with all the modifications I just talked about, and the SLD, or the slide locking device. It's all well and good to talk about having a great suppressor host, but what else do you need to have good suppressor performance? Subsonic ammo. Super Vel is made by Hush Puppy. It duplicates the Mark 144 Mod 0 used in the original Hush Puppy. This is 158 grain full metal jacket that comes out at about 965 to 1,000 feet per second. Pretty good performance. That's about as good as it's gonna get. Those of you who know anything about suppressors, you've gotta use subsonic ammo. Otherwise, you're going to get a supersonic crack after you fire the gun. With this 158 grain, guaranteed you're not going to go supersonic with this ammo if you fire it out of a pistol. And 158 grain approaching 1,000 feet per second is about the most thump that you're possibly going to get out of a subsonic round. So not only do we have an extremely quiet combo with the Hush Puppy Super Vel, the Hush Puppy pistol, and a 9mm suppressor on here, but it's gonna hit pretty hard too. So is the Hush Puppy all it's cracked up to be? We're about to find out, but it is summer in South Louisiana. It is hot. Everybody is uncomfortable, and I am gonna be a little bit cranky. Let's see if this Hush Puppy makes me feel any better. So that was semi-automatic mode. Now we're gonna switch to slide lock mode. All right, now we're going to give it a shot with 5 rounds of 158 grain Super Vel. I'm going to shoot the first 2 rounds semi-automatic and all the subsequent rounds using the slide locking device. We're going to be using an AAC Tyrant for this test. That was a pretty cool ricochet. Did you guys hear that? All right, now using the slide locking device. Feel like solid snake. All right, now we're going to use the rugged Obsidian 9, which is also kind of a larger diameter 9mm handgun suppressor. I've still got the 158 grain Super Vel, first 2, semi-automatic mode, rugged Obsidian. Pretty dang quiet. Now, slide lock device engaged. Okay, rugged Obsidian 9, shot through the Smith & Wesson M&P Hush Puppy. We're going to use 147 grain Federal Syntech, which I like a lot, lead-free primers, and a synthetic jacket. Really reduces your lead exposure. Then I've got 2 rounds of 147 grain Super Vel, then 2 rounds of 158 grain Super Vel. Now with the slide locking device. Wow. Semi-automatic mode. Not semi-automatic mode. Pretty impressive. That really does make a difference between the slide lock device and the non-slide lock. Time to compare apples to apples. This magazine is going to be all 158 grain Super Vel. We're going to do semi-automatic mode, slide lock. Semi-automatic, slide lock. Semi, slide lock. You get it. Now we'll really get to see the difference using the same type of ammo. So it's not like a mind-blowing difference, but you can definitely tell the difference, at least standing on this side of the gun. So the upside of this little SLD, the slide lock device, very low profile. It's going to be very difficult to trigger it inadvertently, which perhaps is the most important thing. It would be nice to not have to re-grip the gun to change it back to slide lock mode. I mean, you can kind of, it takes a little bit of leverage, or you have to adjust your grip if you want to use the pad of your thumb instead of the knuckle of your thumb. It's a little too hard to use with just the knuckle of your thumb. otherwise you got to kind of re-grip. So if there's a way to make that a little bit better, that would be cool. But I also would say just don't mess with it, because I guess I would rather have to re-grip to get back into slide lock mode than accidentally trigger it when I don't mean to. That would be much worse. Rugged Obsidian 9 with the Hush Puppy and 147 grain Hush Puppy Super Vel ammo. Semi-automatic, semi-automatic, slide lock. Now we have the AAC Tyrant 9mm on the Smith & Wesson M&P Hush Puppy configuration. Semi-automatic mode. Oh, we're firing 147 grain Super Vel Hush Puppy. Slide lock. .147 grain Super Vel Hush Puppy through this Odessa 9. All right, now slide lock. I gotta say, it's definitely nicer shooting with the slide lock device on. If anything, it's a lot quieter just because you don't have that action noise, which is surprisingly loud. If you want to listen, just listen to this. That's without actually firing a shot. So for my final thoughts on the Hush Puppy project, Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0. I'm pretty excited about it, so I want to talk about the good things before I get to the very few minor things that I didn't like about it. Now, as far as what I liked about it, I think it's a brilliant idea. Obviously, so did the Navy SEALs in Vietnam. I mean, the Mark 22 predated this gun. I think it's brilliant how they kept up the tradition by making the first gun a Smith & Wesson. They kept it simple, but they also got Smith & Wesson to participate. I like getting factory accessories. I like it when the factory participates, and they included the 13-pound recoil spring instead of the 15. Smith & Wesson did a threaded barrel. Smith & Wesson put the suppressor height sights on it. So it already comes ready for a suppressor. And then you have the slide lock device, which is awesome. Is the difference subtle between firing a regular, say, Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0 and one with the slide lock device, the Hush Puppy project? Yes, there is a difference. It's a subtle difference, but you're getting a different quality of noise. You don't have that slide racking. You don't have gases coming out of the ejection port. You don't have the tinging of brass, if that's something that is going to bother you. So this thing keeps it quiet. And again, it's a different quality of noise. It's definitely quieter. I didn't have a decibel meter or whatever the hell you'd call that thing. I didn't have it out there to test that, but I just thought it was cool, and you could definitely tell when you were shooting it and when you weren't shooting it. I'm really curious to see what everybody else thinks. I mean, me personally, if it were $700 street price, I would buy it. I think that's a pretty good deal because you're getting a Smith & Wesson M&P, which is like a $400 to $500 gun, and then you've got the additions of the threaded barrel, the suppressor height sights. It's tuned to run with a suppressor, and you got the slide lock device. So I think that's a good deal. Now, whether or not you guys do, I'm curious to know, so tell me in the comments, but I thought it was pretty cool. Now, as far as the things I didn't like, not much. The only thing I didn't like, and you might be able to see it like in some of the slow motion, whenever you would let your trigger finger out, whenever you'd let the trigger reset, I would feel the slide kind of jump forward, like kind of jump ahead, and it was just a little unsettling. It didn't affect the performance per se. I thought that was unusual, so I got in touch with the guys at Hush Puppy Project, talked to them about it. They said that that was actually a Smith & Wesson issue. It's a break-in issue that they have with the new gun, something about the trigger bar rubbing against the slide. So they said, look, shoot a few more rounds through it, clean it, take it out to the range, and you shouldn't have the problem anymore. Yeah, so it works fine now, but that was my only complaint with it at my first trip to the range. Now that it's broken in, non-issue. Tell me what you think, sound off in the comments. I'm gonna see if TFBTV can't buy one of these guns and give it away for a Patreon gun giveaway. You guys know every month we do a Patreon gun giveaway. Right now we're giving away 2 guns a month, and that number will continue to increase as we get more and more Patreon supporters. Go to patreon.com/TFBTV. Our giveaways have nothing to do with Patreon, nothing to do with YouTube, not sanctioned by YouTube. YouTube probably hates us doing a gun giveaway. But I have to say that in the video. Bottom line, Hush Puppy Project, 2 thumbs up. I thought it was pretty awesome. I think I would own one. I can't wait to see what the Glock one looks like whenever it comes out. As usual, I want to say thanks to our sponsors, Ventura Munitions and Blue Alpha Gear. Ventura Munitions, best ammo store online in the entire world. Blue Alpha Gear, best tactical belts money can buy. Go check them out. In any event, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next week.